The Spurs are set up beautifully with their roster that they have constructed over the last few years via the draft, via free agency, and via trade. The bigs that they have and the way how versatile they are setting them up to be serious problems for this era and next era. And Kristaps Porzingis speaks on the San Antonio Spurs and how he thought he was going to be moved there. We are going to discuss all of it on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss all the great content that me, Josh, and Brian have coming for you. We are going daily because we want to get every bit of Spurs news out for you. And we're on the road to 10K. The channel's almost at a year old, and we are really hopeful that we can continue to build this. So thank you to everybody who has helped us be here, helped us grow over the last year. And if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe by the end of this video you'll want to, but let's get underway with it right now. So, Kristaps Porzingis reveals he expected San Antonio Spurs trade. We're going to quickly talk about this and then get into the Spurs are primed for a new area. But Kristaps Porzingis spoke in an interview with Sporta. I cannot pronounce that. Josh is the guy who can speak multiple languages. I'm not that guy. I'm sorry. When discussing his trade this summer, the Unicorn shared his original expectations. Porzingis knew he would be leaving the Celtics, and after initial conversation with his agent, he expected to join Victor Wembanyama in the San Antonio Spurs. Here are some of his quotes. The rumors started popping up during the season already. It didn't exactly distract us, but we knew this team might not stay together due to the salary cap, and of course they were going to be well into the second apron if they would have kept everything together. After the season, I spoke to my agent and kind of expected that one of us would be traded. For a while I thought I might end up with the Spurs, but then Atlanta came in and that was a nice surprise. It was out of my hands. Of course he's going to say it was a nice surprise out of his hands, but Kristaps Porzingis was almost a San Antonio Spur. I thought that was very interesting that he thought he was going to go there. We obviously got the two big with Luke Kornet and Victor Wembanyama, which we're really going to dive into here in just a moment, but let me know in the thoughts what you would have thought about rather having Kristaps Porzingis. He was on about a $30 million deal for only 1 year. Maybe we could have extended him and had a good extension, didn't pay him too much, but let me know in the thoughts what you think of Kristaps Porzingis possibly going to the San Antonio Spurs, or had the chance of going to the San Antonio Spurs, if you would have liked it, loved it, hate it. But let's get into this article right here that was written by Cal Durant, and I think this is a very interesting article and a very interesting perspective on the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are uniquely positioned to exploit the NBA's next step in evolution. The Spurs are primed to be dominant in a new era. Obviously, the era that we're in, we're still transitioning out of it. Obviously, it was the super teams, and then we're transitioning out of that super team because of the second apron, because of the first aprons, because of the salary caps, the hard caps that they have to deal with, moving in just to a new era of the NBA where it's depth, versatility, size, athleticism, coupled with the fact of having a great organization to build upon, plus future assets that you can build upon. After a terrific offseason, the San Antonio Spurs suddenly look like they are ready to make a big leap next season. A lot of us think that they can get from the play out of that play-in into just the playoffs, being a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. I am one of those people who believe the Spurs have a great chance of doing so if they're able to put the pieces together. Part of their potential success is their versatility with having plenty length, size, and athleticism. Of course, that starts with Victor Wembanyama, but let's keep going. This isn't your father's Spurs. Even so, they could borrow a page from the Spurs from yesteryear by playing the two big lineups. Obviously, we saw that when they got their first NBA championship with David Robinson and Tim Duncan. And then obviously we saw the Spurs grow into what they were, winning in 03, 05, 07, getting there in 12, and then obviously getting to 12, 13, winning 13, 14. But despite the league mostly shying away from those pairings, however, with the Oklahoma City Thunder winning a championship playing a two big man, best believe that the Lions will make a comeback. Of course, this is a copycat league. You see it a lot. Obviously, before we saw a lot of bigs. You had the traditional fours. We'd have McHale, and then you have a Parrish at 5, or you had the two big big in the 80s when you had Hakeem and Ralph Sampson, things like that. A lot of the time, obviously, the league just kind of follows trends where it was the Warriors where you saw a lot of small ball. And then now that the Thunder are able to show with their versatility, size, length, and if they can play two vertical bigs that are very athletic, especially if you have a Chet style one, and a lot of teams are going to try to look for that Chet Holmgren, Victor Wembanyama mold where they have a big who can also stretch the floor and really can put the ball on the deck a little bit. But the obvious option would be pairing Victor Wembanyama and Kornet together and seeing if they could put a lid on the rim with their size and length. I want to see that. I want to see both of them together on the court at the same time because I think that is going to make the paint clogged for teams, and teams love to get into the paint so they can kick out for threes. I think we could take that away, and with Wemby's athleticism, he can actually get out to the three-point line and block shots while having a foot in the paint. So I think that would be great. The thought of having Wemby go back to playing the four might be controversial considering how dominant he has been at center. But since becoming a full-time center, Wemby put up video game numbers averaging 23.3, 10.8, 3.8 blocks, and 4.1 assists, shooting 35% on 7.2 3 attempts per game. I think that last line is what I am fine with him going to a 4. 35% on 7.2 attempts from the three-point line. That's not center production. Obviously, we know that centers can shoot these days. Joel Embiid was shooting well. Obviously, he's been in and out of lineups because of his health. Nikola Jokic, of course, can stretch out and shoot the 3. Karl Anthony Towns, who plays the 5, he's one of the best shooters in the league, honestly. So you have centers who can shoot, but with the volume of which Wemby shoots, he really wants to play kind of that perimeter style. I wish he would get into the paint 18, 21, 22 feet out more so, take a couple dribbles and able to utilize his size closer to the basket because I think he's really unstoppable around there. But if he's going to shoot 7.2 threes a game and be one of our best three-point shooters, he can play a 4. And obviously we know defensively he can guard a 4 or a 5. He really can guard a 3, a 1, a 2 for a possession because of his length and athleticism. So I would actually like to have Wemby at the 4. At times, obviously, have him rotate between, but I think that he would actually be good. Do you guys think that that would be something that you would like Wemby at the 4, or do you think really keeping him traditional center for the most part would be the best? But even so, the Spurs were crazy not to experiment more with the 2 big men next season. Obviously, you still have Jeremy Sochan. You can go small and have either Carter Bryant maybe for stretches of a game if you want to get to the athleticism, or Harrison Barnes. He's played a 4 plenty of times in his career, but the Spurs could dust off the 2 big man lineups. San Antonio historically 2-man big, of course, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, you had Thiago Duncan, Thiago Splitter, and LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol being just a few of the talented pairings. In theory, Wemby, Kornet, perfect fits one another. Wemby spaced the floor, as I was just talking about, so their focal point offensively. Kornet, solid screen center, rim runner, offensive rebounder. Spacing might be an issue, but not as much as some think. Wemby isn't especially a good screen center, but Kornet is, and that could free up De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle getting downhill, attacking the basket. He could also generate extra possessions and make the most of possessions as a strong passer and finisher. They could play a really nice high-low game. They could do a lot with this lineup. Luke Kornet is not just a guy who is big. He has some passing ability to him just because he's a smart player, cerebral. He understands spacing on the floor and playing in a Boston offense that has a lot of pace and space to it, getting out and hitting shooters in the corners and the wings. He has the understanding of how to play within space and how to play as a 7-2 guy within today's NBA. But the Spurs could mix and match the big lineups. You have Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk's a guy who, if you want Wemby to play more inside, he can really be that 4 or 5, depending, who can stretch out and shoot the 3 from the outside, because Kelly Olynyk is a good shooter. Kelly Olynyk is a good shooter. So you could have Kelly Olynyk, you could have Harrison Barnes there, you could have Devin Vassell. Obviously, Devin Vassell is going to be playing your 2-3, but Kelly Olynyk really could put something in there. And if Jeremy Sochan's shooting ability has progressed, that is something that the Spurs can lean on and really showcase what he did. We saw Aaron Gordon last year, 2 years ago, from 29% to last year shooting 43.6% from the three-point line, and he really improved. You saw it in the playoffs as well, that it wasn't just a fluke of a season. He really has improved as a shooter. Is he a 43% shooter for his career? No, he's not better than Steph, but you know what he is? A guy who you cannot just leave on the three-point line anymore, and that's all we need Jeremy Sochan to be, so hopefully that can happen there. The most likely big pairings is Wembanyama, Kornet with Jeremy Sochan. Sochan isn't strictly a big man, but his lack of shooting essentially shoehorns him into that position. If he's able to progress as a shooter, we'll see more in Eurobasket and then obviously in the NBA. If he's able to do that, then it'll be interesting to see what the Spurs can be when they have Kornet, they have Wemby playing together. But he'll primarily play with Kornet, form the backbone of what is hopefully a strong bench unit that puts the clamps on opposing lineups. He'll play some with Wembanyama, though Harrison Barnes remain a superior offensive fit. I really love the fit of Harrison Barnes. I think that he is going to be able to unlock a lot because he can play in a small ball lineup. He can play in a big lineup. He's played in a very complex offense with the Warriors. He's played in space. He's played with De'Aaron Fox already. So he has a very good understanding. He's a true veteran of this league. He's a champion and somebody who I would love to keep on this roster because he can be the kind of the glue that keeps everything together and the veteran presence in the locker room now that there is no more Chris Paul. He is really going to be that guy. You lean on him and De'Aaron Fox, who has been in the league for quite some time now. But nevertheless, Sochan Wemby did show promise offensively. Coach Mitch Johnson experienced having Sochan set screens with Wemby before slipping the screen, catching a lob. I think that Sochan has shown himself as a passer. We know that Wemby is a good passer. So I think that the camaraderie between the two is going to be something that can be very beneficial. It could be kind of at the playmaking style, a lesser version of what Jokic and Aaron Gordon. I have been talking about Aaron Gordon and Jeremy Sochan kind of comparisons, and obviously Wemby is not the passer that Nikola Jokic is because there's not very many people who in the history of the NBA. But they can have that kind of similar Wemby top post, he can hit it down to Sochan, or the opposite, because Sochan, we tried to throw him at point guard, but it didn't work out, but at least he can pass a bit. But defensively, they obviously have their strengths, Sochan being able to guard bigs, wings, power forwards, Wemby's being a turn at the rim, finding the right combination of players around them in the trickier with the Spurs' lack of overall shooting. But if Sochan's jumper is actually improved, row for the rest of the NBA. I did like that. But let me know what you guys think about what the San Antonio Spurs have there. Do you think that the two big lineup is something that they should try for 10, 12 minutes a game, or is it something that maybe you dabble here and there depending on the opponent? I mean, obviously it's going to be opponent driven, but they're a type of team that if they want to dictate the pace of the game and dictate how things go, maybe you go with that big lineup, not just opponent dependent, but you do it anyways and do it regardless, and that can be kind of a staple of the lineup and a staple of your team. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys. Help us get to 10K. If you got to this point, guys, just hit that subscribe button so you see every time that we post, me, Brian, and Josh. Again, Spurs Digest. Appreciate all of you guys, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon.